Up, we're gonna do a couple Instagram shoutouts. First up, with the classic SKX009 is Chris450cc. Next up, we've got my brother with Guest Collection Swiss-made chronograph diver. Beautiful wrist shot there with my new niece, by the way. My boy Henri, a watch to watch with his Hamilton Cross Patrol. Then we have the Oris Aquis by 7Baz2. Last but certainly not least, we have the beautiful Panerai Luminor GMT, courtesy of MWD73D. Our matchup between the Marathon GSAR and the Squale 1521. That's coming up right after this. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is take a look at the price point between our two heavyweight hitters here today. First up, we've got the Marathon GSAR, which retails for $800 stock. With the optional metal bracelet, it is $187 more, bringing it to a total of $987. The Squale 1521 retails for $900. Additional mesh bracelet is $150, bringing that to a grand total of $1,050 USD. Alright, let's take a look at our fighter statistics. As you can see here, looking at them side by side, they are fairly similar in almost every way. There are a couple key differences, taking a look at the crystal, the sapphire domed versus the flat sapphire. The bezel, you have the Marathon GSAR with 120 click unidirectional bezel versus the Squale 1521's 60 click unidirectional bezel. Other major difference is going to be the lume. You have the tritium tubes on the Marathon versus the Super Luminova on the Squale. And then the other biggest difference you have there is the depth rating. 300 meters on the Marathon GSAR versus the 500 meters on the Squale. Taking a look at these statistics right off the bat, these 12 key features for our fighters, if you rank those point-wise already, you're looking at 11 points each. The biggest differentiator there, and the reason they don't both have 12 points, is that the Marathon GSAR loses a point, having a lower depth rating than the Squale. Having said that, the Squale loses a point for its bezel up against the Marathon. And we'll take a closer look here at those in just a second. Now taking a look at the bezel on the Marathon, let's take a listen. And you can see there's 120 clicks on this bezel, and there is very little play, if any at all. Let's take a look at the Squale. Here we go. 60 click bezel only, which is surprising when you consider the price point, it must be said. And even more surprising is take a look at the play. There is some play there in between clicks. And that's going to be part of the reason it loses to the Marathon when it comes to its bezel. Alright, so the next category, let's talk history and heritage for these brands. First one we're going to look at is Marathon. Marathon was founded as Weinsturm Watch in 1904, changed to Wine Brothers, and finally ended as Marathon in 1941, as did their history with the military, as they supplied the Allied forces with reliable timepieces during World War II, a partnership that still continues today. Now let's take a look at Squalid. Squale was started by Charles Van Buren and focused on making dive watch cases in the early 1950s. Production of the complete Squale watches, as we come to know them today, didn't start until the 1960s. So with that in mind, they both have solid history and heritage. Having said that, Marathon dates back further to 1904, although not known as the Marathon we know today, until 1941, producing watches for the military starting in World War II. It's still 10 years well before Squale started. So in the history and heritage category, Marathon wins and takes the point over Squale. So that brings our total to 11 points for Squale, and Marathon just pulls ahead with 12 points. Next category we're going to take a look at is practicality as an everyday wear watch, as most of us use divers for. Now let's go ahead and start with Marathon. Marathon has a brush case, making it perfect for everyday wear as it won't show any scratches or dings easily. However, while it can still be dressed up with a strap change, it doesn't dress up as nicely as the Squalid. The crown is gnarled and does allow for very easy operation. It also means that it will make contact with the top of your hand over the course of the day, depending on how you wear your watch. Now let's take a look at the Squale for practicality as an everyday wear. It has a polished case, allowing it to be dressed up a bit more than the Marathon. However, because of the polished case, scratches and dings show much more visibly over time. The crown allows for a more comfortable wear, as the crown never comes in contact with the top of your hand, but it also means that it is a pain to unscrew when you need to make any adjustments to the time or to the date. Now, they both have pros and cons, so because of that, they each get awarded a point in this particular category. So that brings our total to 13 for the Marathon and 12 for the Squalid. So Marathon is still ahead. Alright, so now let's take a look at these two pieces in the dark. Primary difference between these two is that the Marathon on your left is using the tritium tubes and the Squale on your right has the Super Luminova. Now, it is worth noting that legibility for either one of these in the dark is not going to be an issue. Having said that, those of you that love your lume, yes, the Super Luminova does shine brighter or produce more light in the dark than the tritium tubes do. I'm considering visibility, period. Visibility and being able to read the time is not going to be an issue for either one of these. People do complain about the lifespan of tritium tubes, which is about 12.5 years is the half-life. I did contact Marathon and they will be able to replace the dial for $100, which would come with all new tritium tubes. Now, in terms of the Super Luminova, it's going to patina over time, which does reduce some of its luminescence just due to the fact that it's going to start to get a little bit discolored. The lume category, they each land a punch. That means total punches landed for the Squale is going to go up to 13, while the Marathon goes up to 14, still slightly ahead of the Squale. So let's take a look at these two. They're dive watches, right? So that's right, let's take a look at them underwater. Starting off with the Marathon, it has already lost a point to the Squale because it doesn't go as deep. It doesn't have the same level of water resistance that the Squale does, so that's already been accounted for. Having said that, you'll notice that at a certain angle, you won't be able to see or read the time at all. Legibility of the dial underneath the water is perfectly legible, very easy to see. If you take it diving and you're in really dark waters, the tritium tubes are constantly going to light up for you and it's not going to lose that luminescence. So that is a really nice feature. Let's take a look at the Squale underwater. Looks beautiful, just the same. Now, even with the dome sapphire crystal, which I thought might help reduce some of this, you will notice that at a certain angle with the Squale, you still also won't be able to see the time at certain angles underwater. Now, while the legibility with the dial is still good, because of the white dial, it is sometimes just a little bit harder to read and see the time at first glance underwater than the Marathon is. But if you are taking it for a dive and it is dark, the luminescence is going to make it easier to read the time. So in this particular round, they both land a punch, which takes their totals to 14 for the Squale and 15 for the Marathon. For the next round, what I want to look at is the additional bracelets that are available for both of these models. So here you see they're both available with bracelets. You have very nice clasps on them, but we'll start by taking a look at the Marathon bracelet on the left. The first thing that is really noticeable with these is that the Marathon bracelet does actually have screws for the links, while the Squale bracelet has pins in them for removal. So I do think that the Marathon bracelet is a little bit more sturdy. They do both allow for micro adjustments, so that's not an issue. But what is surprising is that the Squale bracelet has no diver extension. It is very nice, very secure, but there's no diver extension. The Marathon bracelet does have a diver extension. So when we consider the bracelets that are available for each of these, the Marathon lands a punch and the Squale does not. That brings the total to 16 for the Marathon and still 14 points for the Squale. Now, while I think this is a very fair, very equal matchup, as they're both very similar in price point, very similar in offering, surprisingly, the Marathon just wins the match, coming in with 2 more punches than the Squale delivered, with a final score of 16 for the Marathon and 14 for the Squale. So I hope you guys enjoyed this matchup. If there's anything else you'd like to add, please go ahead and add it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And that's it for this matchup. I'll see you guys next time. CG out.